every part of this situation is quite strange. One of the claims Hindenburg makes is that they hardly made any money. They hardly made $4 million or less in that sense. Now, if they did not make money, then why did they do it? Are they an incompetent business house, or they had some other agenda? If they had some other agenda, they should better tell us about what that agenda is. If money making wasn't the agenda, clearly they were not doing it for world peace or for global upliftment. They were doing it for some purpose. It is also, a matter of curiosity, and this is something I'd mentioned umpteen number of times in your channel, as to why at the same time OCCRP, in which George Soros has got a significant interest, jumped into the fray, and they started talking about the same issue. And almost on cue, we also had a cabal in India, which then took the case to Supreme Court and tried to make it a larger than what it should be. And obviously, we as an economy lost $150 billion in terms of stock value, which also stopped the Adanis from making further investments for about a year and a half. That stoppage of investments into infrastructure, into green energy, into ports, that's a loss for India as an economy. So it hit us quite badly. And on top of it, what we hear Hindenburg is saying is that Sebi seems more interested in pursuing those who expose such practices. Now, instead of trying to shoot the messenger, Hindenburg should focus their energies on trying to respond to what Sebi is asking them. Hindenburg has not made a single response or gone public with any of the responses to the issues that Sebi is asking for, but instead says that Adani did not respond to Hindenburg's report. Now, who is Hindenburg that we should be reporting to, or any of our companies should be reporting to? Hindenburg is not the Supreme Court. Hindenburg is not even an Indian institution. And for that matter, the delay in Sebi going after Hindenburg is because Hindenburg is hiding in the jurisdiction of US. So I'm glad Sebi could figure out a way to actually reach out to Hindenburg and serve this show cause notice, because Hindenburg is not really under the Indian jurisdiction. And therefore, I don't know how Sebi really reached out to them. And Hindenburg should now put their focus on answering the questions that has been posed to them by Sebi. It is also interesting to note that they are now talking about a new investor partner they had. They should be first revealing who it is, and they should have done that a year and a half ago when they first came out with the report. They're also talking about an Indian bank which was involved, which we need to ask why they have been hiding that name for 1.5 years and obstructing the course of justice. They've hidden two very critical pieces of information. Who was this bank and who was this investor? They need to come out with this because they have impacted millions of people, their livelihoods, their savings, and they have put a blockage onto the further development of infrastructure in this country. And, we have these, a set of people who talk about India ka tukre tukre, Bharat ka tukre tukre, bade companies ka tukre tukre, large companies should be broken down. If government is not supposed to do manufacturing and create and be in the private sector, and private sector is supposed to break down, then who is going to do it for India? And there seems to be a focused approach towards breaking down large companies of India so that India is not able to move forward. In addition, Hindenburg starts talking about Sebi seemingly tied itself in knots to claim jurisdiction over us. Obviously, Hindenburg is hiding behind the US jurisdiction. Obviously, it's a challenge for Sebi to do so. Now, instead of focusing on what's been troubling Sebi, Hindenburg should come out with answers to the show cause notice, which they have not. Not only that, now they are going ahead and saying that that the show cause notice is an attempted intimidation, and everything in it is nebulous allegation, without saying why any of it is nebulous allegation. But there's also a much more serious allegation that Hindenburg is putting in. They are saying that Sebi actually pressured brokers behind the scenes to close short positions in Adani. Now, they have not presented a single shred of proof, but they are going and hitting one of the most vulnerable institutions of this country and making this such preposterous claims. There is something which is criminal in nature. And I think we as Indians must make sure that such a propaganda is stopped on its tracks, and also make sure that entities like Hindenburg is brought to book so that nobody else dares to go after Indian companies in future and hurt the Indian economy.
How important is it, to ensure here that they cannot scoot and shoot and scoot, as I said earlier. They're trying to evade now, but how important is accountability to be fixed, and will it be able to?
Implementation is, or the enforcement is challenging because, as Dr. Kohli said, Hindenburg is not in the Indian jurisdiction. So how can we really, bring them to justice? We have seen fugitives running around all over the world, and we have not been able to bring them to justice. And there are Indians who have, taken flight to foreign jurisdiction, where they have been feted and they have been kept, protected. So clearly, Hindenburg will be a challenge for India. But I think at least we should go through the motions. At least we should attempt and see if we can bring them to, some kind of justice. Because otherwise, any other entity will keep doing this to India. As again, Dr. Kohli said, 6 people sitting somewhere, bands together, puts together a bunch of lies, makes sure that there are counterparts in India who amplify it, and brings down a large conglomerate, along with which, lot of people's savings get completely wiped out. Those are issues that needs to be taken care of. And again, I'll repeat, it's not easy to do. It will be not fair to expect that Sebi will be able to pull it off because there are jurisdictional issues involved. The same challenges that we faced with other fugitives from India will face the same challenge with Hindenburg. But I think the pressure must be on. I think we should demand cooperation from the US government to bring Hindenburg to justice, because I'm sure even the US companies are getting victimized by what Hindenburg is doing. These are not acceptable business practices, at least not from an Indian perspective. And the set of regulatory framework that we have, Hindenburg crossed the lines. They were not operating in that framework. And clearly that's not acceptable from an Indian perspective.